Right, the last game we made is this platformer, which I hope you had a lot of fun making. This time we're gonna keep going, and this will be our final, I think, 2D game, and the next one we'll do a networked video game. Um, and so it's important to kind of get some network stuff in your portfolio. Overall, what I'm thinking is let's go ahead and just get started. So I'm going to go to File here, and I'm going to go to New Scene, and just do a basic URP here, and that'll give us our basic scene setup. And we have a platformer, we have a quiz game. Let's go into our games folder, create another folder here. And I'm just going to call this one Space Shooter. All right, because we're doing a 2D game, we don't need our directional light because most of our assets are self-lit or unlit. Let's go ahead and select our main camera. Now for projection here, what we're going to do is select orthographic. And you can see it created this sort of box here. And this box is really just represents sort of the shape of whatever our camera is. You know, this is our camera shape. So if we're going to do 16 by 9, and this is, we can adjust our size here of our box as well, clipping planes, things like that. All right, so up to window here, we're going to go to window, we're going to go to rendering, lighting, and let's take a look at our environment here. Right now we have this default skybox. I'm going to go ahead and select really none. Oops, none. And that'll give us a flat color here. And because we're kind of working in a space environment, you can even just play with this. I guess we just leave the real-time shadow colors as is. And instead of skybox here, we change this to color, and we'll make this like maybe black for the environment. You know what? Let's see. I think we could just leave this as color for now, and then we'll decide what our color is going to be. Let's see what else we have. I think that's good. I'm going to close this out. Now for background type, I'm going to change it from skybox to solid color, and then you can make this black if you want. Now the next thing I'm going to do is inside of my Space Shooter folder, I'm going to create another folder, and I'm going to call this art. Another thing is you want to make sure that 2D is on. Now let's go ahead and import the art in. So I'm going to right click in here and then do import new asset. And then I'm just going to import the art that I provided you. All right, so it's really just right clicking, importing new asset, and then following along. Now for the spaceship here, you can see our image is a little skewed. What I want to do is change the default type from default to sprite 2D. It's a sprite mode multiple, that's okay. Mesh type, that's fine type. Pixels per unit 100 is okay. And then I'm just going to hit apply. You can see it squared it off, and it also found where my alpha is, like where it's invisible. Because I erased when creating these spaceships, I just had it on a no background. This is essentially going to be the projectile. These are going to be different types of ships. Let's go ahead and open our sprite editor here. And what we can do is I can highlight this, name this projectile, and then I can hit apply. And what you'll start to notice, because we selected multiples, as I expand this, we now have a projectile. And I'm going to highlight this one. Just name this Spaceship 01, apply. There we go. Actually, it looks like it's kind of doing that for me, but let's just make this one 2, hit apply. Oh, it's not ringing. Okay, we'll do this one 3, apply. I'm just kind of going through. Oh, you know what? This one, I'm going to go ahead and delete it. Let's delete that. And hopefully, let's hit apply again. That should update it. Here's 01. This one we can rename 02, just to kind of keep the naming conventions working right. Apply, there we go. This one could be 03. Sorry about the monotone voice. My little ones are sleeping and my daughter's currently not feeling well. So you're gonna have to deal with a little bit of this. So here's 04, hit apply. So now we have our projectile and our 4 ships, and they're cut up. And if we drag them in the scene, you could see, sure enough, there's our ship. We could adjust the size, all that good stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that out. Oops. In our spaceship folder, let's go ahead and create another folder called scenes. And we could save this as level 1. And sometimes I like to just do like, okay, if I have like a multi-game thing like this, I'll do like SS or space shooter underscore, or just do level underscore 01. Now, a couple things. If you went through this process and you're kind of stressing and you're like, oh, you know, you started a new project instead of working from the previous one, you want to go to like Unity Registry and you just want to install the 2D sprite package here, which we already had installed. I should have kind of mentioned that earlier. You could mention, if you really want to build this game and spend a lot of time, you could just hit install and install all 8 packages if you have a computer with a pretty beefy hard drive, but that'll work as well. Just overall, what you want to do is right click, make sure that you're able to go to 2D object and you're able to add sprites, you know, square, triangle, rectangle, things like that. And what's nice about this is you can go inside of here and you could say, okay, you know, like I want to add this to be the projectile, or you could drag it in. I mean, depending, right? But, you know, that's a different way of doing it. Actually, one other thing I forgot to mention is in the package manager, we're going to need the input system, which is here. So make sure that that's installed as well, because we're going to be doing that a lot. A lot of the previous games we wrote, we just used the old classic project settings. All right, so pick which one of these ships you want to be the player, you know, whatever one you like more. To me, this one kind of looks like an enemy ship, and these look like a classic generic. This looks like an enemy ship too. I'm going to go with this guy. I think he's pretty cool. So I'm just going to right click in here, create an empty, and name it player. I want to make sure that I'm completely reset, especially on my Z-axis, and I'm going to grab my spaceship one, just drop it on there. Oh, not that one. This one, and just make it a child of this. And now there's my player. And we can actually select our main camera here and just kind of zoom out a little bit. And bring this down a little bit. Now we're going to be doing sort of a tiled thing where the system's coming at our player, so we're just kind of moving back and forth. And I want my spaceship to be 0, 0, so that when I select my player here, it's like this. Let's go ahead and create a prefabs folder. I'm going to grab my spaceship, or my player here, and just drop it in my prefabs folder. Now for my main enemy, it's going to be these guys, the Zorlocks or whatever. And so I'm going to create an empty here, call this enemy ship. And this could just be 0, 1. Make sure these are zeroed out. And then grab this one, put it on here. Boop. Make sure these are all 0. Make sure this is 0. Grab and drop that inside my prefabs folder. Now we have our enemy ship prefab. We can kind of edit. You move it up here, something like this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create another empty. I'm going to call this BG for background. And I'm going to go to art and just import a new asset, and it's going to be my background image. All right, for this background image, I'm going to do the same thing where I'm just going to make it a sprite 2D and just hit apply so that it locks in that shape. Drag it underneath. Sprite 2D UI. And let's see, make it a single image. There we go. Now I should be able to drag it into my scene. There we go. And I'm just going to, again, just hit R and sort of scale this up a little bit. Now I want this to be behind, and let's make sure this is set to 0, 0, 0. And let's set this to 5, 5, 5. And it looks like it's outside of my thing here. So this should also be set to 0, 0, and 0. There we go. And then this should also be centered. And then this should be 1, 1, 1. Okay, now for the background image, I'm going to go ahead and just drop that also in my prefabs folder. And for the background, there's a couple things you could do. We can go in here, and remember we created those sorting layers. So we created a ship one or whatever. But what we can do for now is with this background image, just to save time, we can make this like -1, and that'll sit behind it, and just make sure both of these, the player, ship, and the enemy, are at a higher value. And same thing as before, I feel like my main camera needs to come out a little bit more. So the higher the number, the more we zoom out. Something like this. And I don't even mind this black trim here. Maybe we could stop it, but same thing as before. Just kind of play with this. Maybe we do 10, 10. There we go, 10, 10, 10. Because again, it's just sort of, and then for our camera, actually, now that I think about it, let's see, we want our game to not be really 1920 by 1080, right? We want our game to be more like a space shooter, right? Like it looks almost to sit to a phone size or something. So let's see. Now for aspect ratio, we have 16:9. I'm just going to hit a plus here, and I'm going to do 9:16. And then I'm going to hit OK. And then for the label, it's 9. Oh, sorry. Let's take out, we want to do aspect ratio, not fixed resolution. We want to do 9:16 here. And we'll name this SS for space shooter, and then hit OK. And now we have more of a 9:16 going on here. Same thing as before, we could select our main camera. Remember, 9:16, we could just inverse the width and the height. And so now we've got more of like what a space shooter would look like. Same thing with our main camera. We can come out even further, select our player, move it down here to the bottom of our screen, move our enemy. And remember to always select the top point. If you click in sometimes in your scene, it could select your ship at the bottom. And then what we could do is we can actually dock. Let's do layout 2x3. And then let's make sure that this window is 2D. And let's make sure we're on our 9:16 SS down here. And then let's dock our game next to our scene view, because it's kind of, so I'm going to actually move it to the side. There we go. So now we can work in this view. Or actually, you know what? I'm a righty, so I might want to watch my game there and then work in the middle. So I can kind of work this way. Make sure your project, again, if you're just following along the way I do it like this. So this would be a good way to work on a space shooter or something like this. And then you could always just kind of go in here and do main camera and then just adjust it like 17 or something. For our layout here, I'm going to save the layout as SS so that I know it's for my space shooter. So if I ever jump from another computer, then I'm going to save this scene as well. All right, now that we have our project set up, we can, in the next lesson, we can learn how to, or revisit. Maybe we'll do something a little bit more advanced, but we revisit creating an input system like we've done before in our other games for our spaceship moving around.